Hey everyone, today I'm joined by David Hose. David is a marketing consultant who specializes in helping dev agencies build and execute marketing strategies that actually resonate with technical founders. With a background that bridges both worlds, his mother an English teacher, his father a software engineer, David cut his teeth at a conversion optimization agency before advising dev shops on positioning and growth. He's built a reputation for translating marketing speak into language that engineers actually trust. Now, I wanted to have David on because most dev agency founders hate marketing, right? And for good reason. David understands why and knows how to fix it. I also really appreciate his thoughts on LinkedIn, so you should give him a follow there. In this episode, we discuss why dev founders distrust marketing, positioning beyond programming languages, marketing that elevates rather than erodes reputation, and more. Lead gen is the hardest part of running an agency. For most, it's unpredictable, it's slow, and it's usually expensive. Gia flips that. It's the all-in-one growth platform that turns your existing relationships and client work into a steady pipeline. Gia automates lead gen, follow-up, and content, and it's all from the work you're already doing. You can check it out and get some free bonuses at getgia.ai/dynamic agency. And now, David Hose. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. What makes marketing for dev agencies uniquely difficult?
I think the biggest thing is honestly I would say it's actually easier for somebody with a marketing background. But I think if you're a dev agency founder or somebody who just operates in that world, it's not a skill set that's as common in that space. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have a lot more left brain engineer types that are going to be in your agency. And so you're going to think, okay, well, how do I engineer things? And so marketing is just going to feel a little bit more mysterious to you. So what I've found is that's actually, without realizing it, I kind of accidentally stumbled into that space. And my background, like my mom's an English teacher. My dad is a software engineer. And like one of my first agency jobs was in a conversion optimization agency. So it was kind of design and dev combined. And so that's kind of, I feel like I kind of bring those two worlds together. And that's kind of why I think I play well in the dev agency space.
Yeah, you definitely bridged that gap with your parents. Did just out of curiosity, what was your best subject in high school?
Probably more on the English side of things. I mean, that's probably why I ended up being a marketer rather than an engineer. But I definitely, like when I was late in high school and into college, I was like making websites. And so like, I also had kind of like that, building things sort of itch that I think a lot of engineers have.
Yeah. Yeah. I got my degree is in English. But I never expected to get into marketing or anything. So it's interesting to hear other people's stories as you get in here. But yeah, I guess, so I work predominantly with marketing agencies. I've had a handful of dev agencies, and it's way different to market for a dev agency, which is why I generally will market to marketing agencies and like stay there. It's within my wheelhouse but there is like a very different kind of feel, even within the company, how you market their services, talk about them, like the things you have to just be aware of for like how they operate are actually different. Was that, I mean, because of your background, you just go into this field kind of understanding these things, or is it something you just continuously pick up as you're working with them?
Yeah, I think it's something where I think I had maybe a little bit of more of an aptitude to pick up some of it, and I have definitely learned a lot as I've been doing it as well. Some of the things that I think come up are like, I think if you're an agency and you're developing, a lot of times you might lead with like, we specialize in a particular language, and it's like, I don't think they realize that they're kind of commodifying themselves if they're just saying, we're a Python shop, or we're a a Rails shop. Like, yes, that can be something that you can highlight, if that's a relevant detail, but I wouldn't lead with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of similarities to marketing rather than just saying, like, yeah, we do SEO and ads and this. It's like, I mean, the equivalent is those languages that they're bringing up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
But there's a big temptation to just lead with that. And it's like, no. Like, what do you do with that? That's what's much more important.
Right. Yeah. What problem can you solve? So, I mean, it kind of alluded to this already, but like, I think a lot of dev founders hate marketing. Why is that the case? Is it just hard, or is it that they like literally don't enjoy it?
I think there can be, I mean, what's the phrase that like marketers ruin everything or something along those lines? Marketers tend to have a reputation for having kind of a tenuous relationship with the truth sometimes. And I think, maybe at least a big part that I've seen is that maybe developers have some skepticism of marketing because of that. Like they've seen slimy marketing, they've gotten calls from solicitors and they've, been on the receiving end of stuff that just, didn't match what was said. And so I think there's a justified mistrust of marketing. I don't think that is all of marketing. And so I think what I like to kind of come to the table with is to be like, look, these are not the only ways to market. You don't have to be some sort of like slimy, um, cold caller or something like that. Like you can actually do marketing and sales in a way that elevates your reputation, not like erodes it.
Yeah, makes sense. The something that we had done at the agency I was working at was like so we did web development, but it was a separate team, and then we had our growth marketers like running the actual marketing stuff once sites were up and all the tech was there. But we ran all of our tests from like the CRO perspective as the scientific method, right? Like we set a hypothesis, we had our or this criteria for the test, we ran it. Is it conclusive, inconclusive? And I think that was a good way to kind of bridge the gap between the two sides, where it was like even the nerds understood what the marketers were talking about. And obviously, my terminology, you can tell which one I am. But it was it was interesting kind of seeing that from the outside, having talked to like some dev agencies and seeing like, oh yeah, they just don't think that way. Like they're very much on like this path. And so if we can find ways to bring this together, it works.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think there's more in common than people initially realize. But I think, for me, it's just been like trying to speak both languages and try to translate them for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk positioning. How do you help dev agencies with nailing down what their positioning is?
I mean, honestly, I would say it's similar to helping any agency with positioning. Honestly, the best place that I want to start with any agency, specifically with dev agencies, is looking at kind of their the people that they've worked with before. Who have they worked with the longest? Who have they had the best relationships with? Who have been the better deals? It's not just quantitative. It's not just like who have we made the most money with, because sometimes those people are kind of the headache clients. It's more holistic. It's who have truly been like the people where if you could clone them, you would be a happy camper and your team would be thrilled. Like that's who you want to focus on. And then think about, okay, what were the outcomes that you were able to drive for them? Like what worked about that relationship? And then kind of back your way into, okay, is there plenty more of addressable market if we just focused in this one area? Do we can use this proof of what we've done before and the results that we got as a way to start kind of attracting and closing more folks like that. But I think basically starting with your case studies or starting with your results is the best way to start narrowing it down.
Yeah. Going back to the audience piece, something I realized pretty quick was that agencies will will go into the like, well, they paid me the most, so I want to keep working with them. It's like, yeah, but I
Mhm.
think you literally said you hate them earlier. So
Yeah.
since we are going to be in conferences and meetings and right marketing to these people, talking to them on social media every single day, maybe we find someone we enjoy working with a little more. Like,
Yeah, well, and it's not just like the CEO, it's like it's the team too. Like you're in charge of the morale of your team. And
right,
if you're being like, hey, you know what, we're gonna bring on these types of clients because they are good for our bottom line, but you're just gonna have a lot more client turnover, or sorry, more employee turnover, which in the end is gonna result in, kind of the I think the health of your agency overall kind of
yeah,
disintegrating. I think that honestly a big part of the health of your agency is being able to attract good talent and keep talent, so that you
mhm,
can keep on delivering good work.
right, yeah. I like Seth Godin's definition for culture is people like us do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at your organization, you're like, well, this is our culture, right? People like us do things like this. We have set a standard, and when we're able to like bring on people who raise that standard, now we all have to kind of go up in order to meet it. And it definitely does exactly what you just said. Like you start producing better work. Everybody rallies behind that because they're excited. And they're like, look what we just did. And yeah, I 100% support that message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, like one of the things that I've realized kind of about myself and kind of like why I like doing this type of work
Mhm.
is that I've been in agencies where like we've had good positioning, we've been focused, and it's like everyone was rowing in the same direction. The overall climate was a little more, it was just honestly, it was a lot more calm. It was just like things felt more sequential and peaceful. And then I've been in other agencies where it's like, hey, we do like dozens of things, and we're kind of letting all sorts of custom things come in the front door. And so it's like everyone's kind of running around with their hair on fire. And I'm like, that's a recipe for burnout there, both
Mhm.
for the leadership and for the team. And I think positioning is not just a good business idea. I think it's also just like a good health idea, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. That's one of the pieces that I have probably the hardest time getting across in like initial conversations where so many agencies just think that positioning is like a messaging exercise. Like they don't realize that it goes way deeper within your organization so that
Mm-hmm.
like if I give you a certain question, I should have a pretty good idea of like what decision you're going to make based on your positioning, right? Like cuz
Mm-hmm.
that's how you show up. That's how your team shows up. And if we really want to like talk differentiation, like if your culture, like the people within your organization are operating in a very specific way, it's really hard for someone to copy that, right? They can copy
Yep.
your tech, they can copy your model, like everything, but they can't just show up and copy your entire teams. It's people.
Yep.
And so,
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, I think we're pretty well aligned on this. I guess what are you seeing for as far as like lead gen for dev agencies? What's working right now?
Um, Honestly, it's a little bit tricky with AI and all the stuff that's happening there. Um, I think the biggest thing, I know referrals is what everyone's
Yeah.
leaning on, but um, honestly, like I can talk a little bit about kind of how I approach things, but it's positioning is the foundation. So, like, if I'm talking to an agency and they're doing a range of different things, first step is like, where do they, where are they doing their best work and for whom, and how do we double
Mhm.
down there? And then where do those people hang out? Right? Like, are they on LinkedIn? Okay, great. Then maybe we can explore posting on LinkedIn. Um, but if they're not on LinkedIn, it's like, well, okay, maybe you need to be going to more conferences. Like it really depends uh, based on what your target clients are. And then have you have you codified what you do into something where it's easy thing for them to say yes to? Have you structured your offers in such a way that people can um, like say yes to something smaller, and then maybe that um, transitions into something larger if they like what you did initially. And then from there, it's like if you have that offer, targeted on a very specific ICP, well, then you can go and find other vendors or providers that also serve that same ideal client, and you can be like, hey, here's kind of our intro offer, low barrier to entry. I'd be happy to promote, your services to our audience. Can we promote our services to your audience, and kind of cross pollinate and not be competing with each other at all? And then just keeping at that. It's not going to just going to be one partner. It's going to be partners over time, and you're going to learn what works and what doesn't within that, and you're going to iterate. So I would say, cold email might work for one dev agency, and partnerships might work better for another agency. Posting on LinkedIn might be a good one. Interview podcasts. A lot of it comes down to also like how the founder or whoever like is leading is wired. There's some people who are like, yeah, I'll happily hop on a podcast, and then there's other folks who are like, there's no way I will. I don't want to be on a screen. I might write, or I might record my thoughts on audio, and we can do something with that. But it's a lot of it. I try to tailor the go-to-market strategy based off of kind of the strengths and weaknesses of the founder, whoever's going to be kind of the face or voice of the agency.
Yeah, so pretty similar to the marketing side. I think you've probably seen like the number of people who just go to LinkedIn and like posting, like nothing's happening. It's like, yeah, I wonder why. Like maybe your audience isn't there, or like you're kind of lackluster, like in your delivery. Like no offense, right? You're like maybe you're just not cut out for LinkedIn. So let's bring someone else in who could do that, or find a different platform where your audience is.
Yep.
So I'm also seeing, going back to like your AI comment, I'm seeing with a significant amount of my clients, actually, they have their clients coming to them and saying, well, can't you do this faster or cheaper? And like, granted, this is all like when they're coming into me for the first time, people like they're getting the AI questions a lot of like, why does it cost this much when we have AI out there? And it's like, people don't seem to realize that you still have to pick speed, quality, or price. Like AI can only help with so much. Because are you seeing the same thing on the dev side, where it's like the buyers are not necessarily more educated, but they're more aware of like some of the tools out there, and so they're asking questions like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard of that some. I think the best thing that a dev agency can do is probably kind of turn that around and educate them. Be like, hey, you know what? These tools are great, but they're not there yet. Like these are great for prototyping something but it's still going to have, big security issues, like all these sorts of things that a real engineer is going to be able to build into it, so that your tool is not just like, clickable, but it can kind of withstand some good like QA. So I would say, yeah, I guess maybe educating clients around, hey, like let's use this to mock something up, but and maybe validate a little bit of like, make sure that there's market demand for something like this, but not have that be like, we're not going to build a whole thing using these AI tools.
Right. I suppose it could work within your messaging as well, when you educate, like when all the competition is saying one thing with AI, like you need AI in this and AI in that, and you can say, well, actually, that's not necessarily the best approach, and you actually have a point of view on that. I can see that being a very strong push for the people who just get it, who are tired of hearing that same message.
Yeah, or even like, if you focus in particular verticals, say you do AI stuff in your dev agency, it's like, well, it's one thing to just say that. I mean, honestly, a lot of that it's table stakes now. Like, well, almost every dev agency wants to, include AI somehow in their messaging. But it's like, well, that doesn't mean much if you're just still saying you like work for anyone. We'll make apps for anyone, and they'll be AI ready or something. It's like, well, no. What if you say, like we help create secure healthcare apps or something? Like, I know it's a bad example, but just being more specific with the audience and kind of the problems that are specific to that industry, then maybe you can speak with a little more specificity about where the AI can provide real benefit, not just be
Right.
like you know, a little doodad that you're attaching onto an app.
Mhm. Well, and that's the key, right? When you can find a problem that you can provide the solution for, now people actually care about the solution, not just, the hours and the cost and everything. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they basically see their problem and say, yeah, I need what you have. And so it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, the cost obviously matters at some point, but but it matters less than just like a bucket of hours that they're trying to pay for in order to get something done.
Yeah, that's another thing that's really hard, I think, in the dev agency space is value-based pricing versus like outcome-based pricing, or basically some other pricing model. Like that's a very foreign thing. There's so many dev agencies. It's like, oh yeah, we do time and materials. It's like this is how much a junior dev is. Here's how much a senior dev is. And then they just turn around and they'll sell it like that to their clients.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, given my marketing background and content background, I think that's kind of like saying, oh, I'm going to hire somebody to write an article and they're going to get paid by the word. It's like, well, you're going to get something that's really, really verbose and wordy, because the more wordy they are, the more money they make.
Right. You're incentivized.
Yeah. So it's like you don't have matched incentives that way. I think, set up your incentive so it's like, hey, you want to build an app that is, a $100,000 app that that can make you that much. Well, we can build it for 10,000. Like that's good ROI right there. Or we can build you $1 million app for 100,000. Like as long as the math works out, and you as an agency can figure out, okay, yeah, we can build it for this price, these ways, and we're confident in that. I think that's a much better way to kind of back into a pricing model. I think we'll see a lot more of that with AI, because people are going to realize, oh, you know what? Like if we just say we do things by the hour, we're going to commodify ourselves, and we're going to, it's going to be a race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I imagine clients are going to say, well, I could code this with AI, right? Like do was it vibe coding, right? And then pay someone to just come in and clean it up. And now I'm going to pay way less because they're spending time just cleaning rather than writing it from scratch. When in reality, that's probably still not the best approach, because you don't have like an expert creating the strategy, making sure they're, the right framework and infrastructure is there, and then building that out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of dangerous too, because it's like, going in like being like, well, I can go buy all the stuff for building a house from Home Depot, and I'll start putting things together so it looks like a house from the outside. And then I'll have somebody come in, and like an architect actually come in and, fix it retroactively. It's like that might actually end up being more expensive,
Right.
And so I think, you have to kind of start with, and maybe that's a good way to, for dev agencies to describe it, as like, hey, we're not going to start from the outside in. We need to start from the inside out. Like, what are the requirements that you have? And let's make sure that we're engineering and architecting this thing well from the foundation on up, not from like the outside in.
Right. Yeah. I imagine once you accidentally remove one of the retaining walls and like inside your house, or a support column or something, it's like, yeah, it's gone. And so, all right. What metrics, I guess, are you looking at from a marketing perspective when you're trying to help your clients build pipeline?
Honestly, like the biggest thing, this is something that I learned, a while back from one of my first agency jobs, was that really the only metric that matters is qualified conversations. So, yeah, you can get people who fill out a form, download a ebook or whatever it is. But I think, there's a lot of ways to gamify, or like to game that system, and that like produces kind of false lead metrics. And qualified conversations is more of like the, after you've kind of filtered through all the stuff that wasn't that good, like this is what really matters. And so I'm a big proponent of kind of making main thing the main thing. And that
Mm-hmm.
means like, okay, what are the characteristics of those um, leads that became qualified conversations? Where did they come from? Like, what did they engage with? What are their pain points? Like, kind of really understanding those leads more than just anyone who kind of fits a broader profile, um, and and starting there. Now, I think from there you can back into some other sort of leading indicator metrics, like if it turns out that a lot of those folks are coming from an email list, or a lot of those folks are coming from LinkedIn. It's like, okay, well, you can have some sort of develop some leading indicators that make sense for that. It's like, okay, well, let's get our opt-in numbers higher if email is working really well for you, and let's get our actual engagement for our newsletter higher. Let's figure out ways to optimize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and I can appreciate the simplification of picking that one metric that you want to target, and qualified conversations is ultimately it, right? The more conversations you have with the right people, like the better off you are. Because even if you don't close them as new business, you're likely going to learn something through that
Mm-hmm.
conversation that helps with everything else.
Yeah.
I I grew up, I guess, in the agency space in a HubSpot agency, and so I always we have sessions, leads, MQLs, SQLs, opportunities, then customers. And in some ways, it was great because I could see where people were falling off. And so now it's like, well, we know we're losing SQLs, which means it's probably our booking page, which means we got to do X, Y, and Z. But in my own business, I was like, do I really need all these things? Like, really, I just need to get on stage and then have conversations. And like, if I do
Mm-hmm.
those two things, everything else seems to be working. And so, the simplifying of the metrics, I think, is something probably more agencies should just be considering. Like, what is that one thing that focusing on this will actually help you get the result you're after?
Yeah, I think honestly, that seems like it's a little bit of a symptom of, um, like in the B2B marketing world, there's a lot of
Mhm.
SaaS marketing tactics that have
Yeah.
bled into agency marketing. And
Mhm.
so I think the metrics that you mentioned are maybe one example of that, where it's like, oh yeah, we have to have these, 5 stages, when in reality, it's like maybe it's like 2 or 3 max, for most agencies, and we're overcomplicating it because it is more of a relationship and expertise driven industry, not a low ticket, $30 a month software tool.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and I think that's I think this is one of the results of Martech just having such an influence over everything. And so, like
Mm-hmm.
HubSpot's metric, if you were a Salesforce agency, you're probably paying attention to those metrics more. And yeah, it's like they're like ingrained in my head. I just it's like I don't want to use them, but I'm still thinking about them even. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting concept. Um, so, all right, as we start winding down here, what would you say, looking at, we're recording this January 2026 for everybody who's listening, um, what would you say is the like 80/20 for this year for dev agencies to just stay on top of their pipeline to nail it? What is that one thing that they should be working on?
I would say no matter how uncomfortable it is, finding ways to proactively um, build new relationships. I'm a big fan of podcasts, but it can
Mhm.
also be things like going to relevant conferences, not conferences where your peers are, but conferences where your best fit clients are. That's
Yep.
another thing I see in dev agency space. It's like, hey, we went to this, you know, this industry conference where there's a bunch of other um, developers all hanging out because we're talking about a particular language or something. And it's like, no, that's not going to be helpful for you. Um, so I'd say, yeah, just basically um, really focusing on building relationships, um, and yeah, I mean, I think that's so key. There's been so much change over the last, I'd say, 5 years. With the pandemic, everything went online. Then people kind of got burnt out on all the online only things. Now we have AI,
Mhm.
so it's like, what's real, what's not real. And I think, quite frankly, people know that you're real if you're in person, or that if like they can look at you face to face. Like, I know you're real, you're not AI generated, at least not yet. So,
maybe.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think especially when people are going to be spending a good amount of money to invest in agency services, they want to trust the person on the other end and know that, know their expertise and that they're relevant to their problems. And so I think the more you can, use methods that kind of show that you're just another human being, that's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a trust gap that's being opened. And I'm because of it, I'm bullish on live events, like whether in person or just digital, like live events, so people can actually engage with you and they know you aren't a robot.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They'll take over eventually, and then we'll just be their peons doing whatever they need. So, all right, last two questions as we wrap up here. What book do you recommend every agency owner should read?
Honestly, the one that kind of got me passionate about this in the first place is one called Built to Sell. I think it's probably one of the good foundational ones. I actually think the example, it's meant for broader businesses, but I think the example in it was an agency that was trying to do too many things. And so it's a great place to start.
Yeah. So I recommended that book to someone before, and they said, yeah, but I'm not interested in selling. And it's like, yeah, but this is one of those things that if you prepare to sell, your life gets better. Like one, you get the option of selling, but it's like to have a business that is sellable also means that your operations are cleaner, right? You got like more consistent pipeline. You're just doing all the right things. So it's like, why would you not take those steps?
It's really just like you're streamlining your agency is kind of what that book talks about, and focusing it. And I think those things are, I think the agencies that have figured that out have a lot less stress, and the agencies that have not figured that out are still pulling their hair out,
Yep. It'll be a rough year for them. Last question is, where can people find you?
Probably the best places are, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So just David Hose, last name spelled Hoos, and houseadvisors.com is my website. So HAUS advisors, all one word, .com.
Awesome. We'll get all those linked up in the show notes. But thanks for joining me, man. This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun talking shop. I know this is kind of also your world. And so it's fun to, know that we're both kind of seeing some of the same things from different vantage points.
Yeah, it definitely helps to know that you're not just the crazy guy who's like thinking something. But awesome, man. We'll speak soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks again.
That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.